All right, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with Alan and Marshall. I'm Marshall Atkinson.
I'm Alan Howe with Easy Way.
And we have a special guest today. Who is this guy, Alan?
We have the illustrious, the famous Ray Markey from Evrik Imprints, who, Ray is one of the up-and-coming rock stars in our industry, and he's had a little bit of press and stuff, but Ray, I'm so glad you can join us here on Last Minute.
Yeah, another Michigander.
Yeah. Right out of Evrik is in Flint, Michigan, and you know what? You're from around that area, aren't you, Ray?
Yeah. So like birth. Yeah.
So I lived not far from Flint. Still do. And you know what, Ray? You know what? Flint gets just such a bad rap. Because yes, everybody knows about the water thing, and it was true, but it wasn't, citywide and stuff.
Right.
I thought it was the whole city
proper, but there's a lot of it that's not. Right. And then, you know what? The downtown area is being redone. It's really great. So, like everything, growing up in Detroit, everything you hear on the news. It's just the tip of an iceberg. There's a bigger picture than that. So, Ray and I will take you around Flint and see. We'll show you the cool parts.
Yep. It's on a rebound for sure. Kind of like how Detroit was very bad like a decade ago, and it was built from the inside out from the creative businesses in these weird looking buildings. Just trusting it and building it back out. Flint is doing almost
great architecture. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. So
I need to make a trip.
Oh yeah, sure. That'd be cool.
Well, great. So happy to see you here, Ray, and thank you. And for those of you who saw our post at the beginning of the week, we're going to have two other guests, but there's been some scheduling conflicts. So we're going to have Ray Work and Mark Sildonic on at a later date. And so that's kind of a last minute adjustment. And Ray was so gracious to jump in and frankly save our butts. So we appreciate that.
I'm happy to be here. It's awesome.
Well, and we've talked about having him on, and so when we knew it wasn't going to work out, I just reached out right away, and he was gracious.
And Alan, where are you today?
I'm in Hawaii. No, I'm not. I am in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, at the illustrious Spring Hill Suite. You've seen travel brochures.
Do they have a nativity out front?
They do. They just follow the star. It's right over it. But I am here seeing some accounts. But I am here tomorrow. Is my friends at Vastec are having an open house at their manufacturing facility, and I'm going to hang out there, see some people. Charlie Tyler's going to be there, and yeah.
Sounds like a big event. Somebody told me there's like 300 or 400 people.
I was told between 250 have signed up that they've had to stop people registering.
Yeah, so, great.
They built a new plant right around COVID. I haven't seen it, and I've been to their old facility. So just great people. Mark Stallone and his crew, and yeah.
Well, that's excellent. All right, cool. So let's say hey to some folks, and we'll start the show. So, by the way, if you're watching right now, please say hello, drop a comment where you're watching from, and then also this is a Q&A show. So we've got Ray here, and he just started a shop. So this is all about a lot of discussions today is about beginnings. So please leave your comment or maybe your story or whatever. We want to hear all that. And we would also really ask a huge favor of you, and please share that you're watching. So that helps us get viewers. It helps us kind of advertise the show a little bit. So please share that you're watching right now and maybe who the guest is and what we're talking about. We would really love it if you would do that. And some of our best viewership, like we had Brian Walker on the other day, we had like almost 5,000 people watch the show because the show was shared 9 times. So we really, really enjoy having people share the show. So please do that.
And it was Brian right now. He's been our largest viewer, and it was great. And it's all about shares. We don't ask them enough, but we appreciate it. So
so let's say hi to some folks. So Hurley is watching from Canada, so good to see you.
Yep.
And Charles is here from New Mexico. Our buddy Rob's here. This is the show. Yes, we're threat show. If you missed that post on Facebook, Alan had a little fat finger.
I did. There was a mistype. The threat was, "Don't threaten us," or you know what? We'll get Ray on the show, and you did. It worked very end. I don't know what was worse was that I made the typing error that everybody that posted, all my friends, just made fun of me. Nobody thought to text me or tell me. Ray did eventually.
It's the humor in it, Alan. You're missing the whole point.
A host of friends. So.
Cheyenne's here. Good see you. Ray's here. Hello, guys. Hey, Ray.
Ray, one of them, who was actually disappointed when I made his post was when I made the change going, now we just look stupid. And I go, exactly.
Yeah. So Mario's here. Good to see you, buddy.
Yep.
Sean's here from Alpharetta. Happy rainy day. Ray says Ray's with the Beard Club. As you can tell, I'm done traveling for the rest of the year, starting to grow the beard look. So I'll look just like Ray here in about a week.
Mine is the same no matter what. So I'm not even in the club.
Peter's here from sunny Roselle, Illinois. M&R, good to see you.
How you doing, Peter?
It's more fun to make fun. That's what friends are for, of course.
It makes me sad inside, though.
And Ghosta says, hey, from
Uppsala,
Sweden. So we got quite the international crew here today. Canada, Sweden. He's Croatia, right.
Heck yeah.
And then Canada, we got it going on.
Well, cool beans. So what do you say we pay some bills and then we'll get the show going? So we want to, as always, thank GSG for sponsoring our show. And here's a little video just for your enjoyment.
We do. We're sorry. Mario's from Slovenia. Our bad.
Slovenia.
That's
okay.
An American.
GSG, the combination of over half a century of knowledge with industry-leading technology and the customer at the center of everything that we do. Graphic Solutions Group is a powerhouse distributor of traditional screen, sign, wide format digital printing, embroidery, and textile decorating. We are committed to our customers, providing support, educational, and consulting services. Your success is our success. We've seen these industries grow and change in our 70 years. One thing never changes: GSG's dedication providing the best products and services available. We've been around, we'll be around, from the highs and the lows, standing right here with you. GSG, the right products, right away.
All right. Sorry, I was too quick on the button there. I cut you off.
Yeah, what I was saying is that we were wrong. Mario is from Slovenia.
Yeah.
Not Croatia. So that's our fault, Mario.
Yeah. She's from Sri Lanka.
Lanka, yeah.
And Rob wants to say, hey, 3 from Atlanta. So
for the win.
Yeah. And then Lon's here too. So Colorado's in the house.
That's right.
So, hey, to start off, I just want to remind everybody that we're having, for Shirt Labs, having a how to match Pantone colors and screen printing workshop on November the 30th. This is a free workshop, and you can sign up at Eventbrite, and the address is just simply Eventbrite, how to match Pantone colors and screen printing. This is going to be November the 30th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And our buddy Mark Soldanek is leading the charge on this. And we're going to talk about how to match on darks, how to use a color spectrometer, and what is that thing, and all that stuff. And so it's going to be a really great workshop. If you have to match Pantone colors, I think this is something that you really need, because after all, it's not really what's in the bucket. It's what comes out of the dryer that matters. And we're going to go over lots of fun stuff. So it's completely free. So please sign up and let me know if you have any questions. Happy to help you guys. All right. So let's go back to normal
Here we are.
here. And
about
Ray,
you?
you match Pantone colors in your job?
Yep, for sure. We've in the short time we've been doing production here in house, we got a whole shelf full of catalog colors already.
Great. And do you use a color spectrometer?
We got one on the way. So
great. Awesome. That's awesome. So, hey, let's start off with discussion day about starting a shop. So you were working somewhere,
yep,
and now you're an owner. So welcome to the owner club.
Thank you.
And so why don't you just kind of give us the 411 on that journey and maybe what you learned and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to my journey kind of started. I was just a graphic artist. My niche, I guess, was athletic design. So I started with a shop who I was fortunate enough to learn a little bit as they brought on screen printing. So I was able to, over the course of about 5-6 years when I first started, this is 2008, 2009. So it's a while ago. I got to see the process of screen printing. And this is when I was going to school. So I was playing hockey at a college level while working part-time at the shop. So I was a good artist, but then you get into color separations and how that affects printing. And I get to be hands-on with printing and kind of put myself in that situation and volunteer to do screens and do this. And, over time it went from, I was at one point when the shop was small enough, I was reclaiming screens the last couple hours of the day. Just because I seen how important that was. I was coding the screens after they're done. So I was the screen keeper and the design and separations guy for a year or 2 years, maybe, as the company grew. And then we put people in the seats and we could prioritize what was important for screen work and stuff like that. And I got done with school and I'd actually made a pivot because business strategy actually caught my attention and kept it, because I thought, okay, there's a lot of great designers in the world. We don't really need another great designer in textile, especially. You got to be really cream of the crop at just design to just get paid a good living to do just design. And I didn't, I'm not sure that was my space, but I did like the creative side and the strategy of marketing. So putting the two and two together and being self-aware of, what my weaknesses might have been and what my strengths were, I was really great with people and building relationships. And that was really fun to me, and being transparent and honest in conversations and all that kind of combined into who the professional is that I became. And the shops that I was at, I kept getting more and more responsibility, turned into overseeing an art department of multiple artists, turned into controlling the accounts coming in and out, and how we interacted with our communities around us and how we were perceived from a digital space and all that, and keeping tabs on all that. And then the culture of a shop too. So that plays a gigantic part. And I think the overall success and turnover is making sure that culture and, you're there for each other. And, it's not, I know it's become kind of a popular meme to make fun of the pizza party syndrome. That's not what people want. They want to be there for each other. We want to have shared values, real shared values, and to be spoken to at an equal level. And, so yeah, I had a good background with the fundamentals of, I got consumed with probably like 5 to 10 years in color separation. So I spent thousands of hours at home on my computer, just color separating stuff that wasn't even a job, just to do it and find new techniques. And that was really cool, because not a lot of people are great at that. There's a lot of software that gets you 70%, but anyone has access to that. So knowing the knowledge gap from getting an image to look like what it looks like on screen to looking great on, through screen mesh, I love being good in that space. So that was, I nerd out really heavy right there. So, but
I always loved that part. That was my favorite part. And, and what's funny is a lot of your career that sounds like me.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah.
So, anyway, so you got a really good opportunity to get funded and start your shop. So kind of just fast forward to that and talk about finding a space and buying the equipment and kind of just figuring out, like if you had access to whatever you want, how did you decide on what you wanted to purchase and what you needed?
Yeah. So the grand scheme of things, I knew I want to eliminate as many linchpins as I can from a system. So before anything's built, I want there to be no linchpins, right? So I have a good control of art, so I can teach art, and not a lot of people have the benefit of starting from that space. So art is the Achilles for a lot of shops. They don't have it to start with. I got a good foundation in that, so I can teach that. So that helps me out a lot. So my linchpins really become in production. So I've seen the MHMs run in person, and I've seen, like, this seems too good to be true. The pin registration with the Dow Fit CTS, I've watched it work in person too many times. I believe it. So when it came time to pick a press, I knew I don't need an 18 color because I spent the better part of my career making what should have been 10, 12, 14 color prints look great on a 10 color press. So you have to be creative when you only have 10 in your separations and what you can do. So I needed 2 more heads, and I thought that would be great. I can do most anything with a 12 color press. So I knew I needed a 12 color, and I got in contact through Mark Deal with, he helped me out a ton with everything. So I bought one of the Doubtfit CTS units, but he put me in contact with Tom up at SPSI, and I knew I wanted the MHM. So we quoted some stuff out, and I got a good deal on it, and the service was going to be awesome. I have
2 flashes.
I have 2 flashes right now. I've got a third one on order. So I do have 2 flashes right now. And then I bought the Tasoma Compact 3. So I knew it'll be a couple years before I throw another auto, if all goes well, next to a dryer. At that point, I can upgrade the dryer if I wanted to, but I'm more than happy with that. Compact 3 it's got the 5-foot belt, chambers well long enough to discharge water-based plastisol. I am definitely overbuilt for the time being, but it's really great because I can be extremely efficient with the manpower I have, because I have the Doubtfit CTS, which we've ran hundreds of setups already, and I've made 2 micro adjustments. And that was the biggest thing to me, was I don't want to have somebody have 1,000 hours on press to memorize the micro adjustments to get colors lined up. If it takes you 30 minutes to line up a 5-color job, let's say 5 minutes a screen or whatnot, that to me is a problem, because I can't just hire somebody with a good work ethic and train them the principles of printing. They got to worry about being fast on the lineups, and then heaven forbid you print it and you got to try and adjust dirty screens when they already have a print stroke on it. That is a huge mess, and I don't want to ever have a linchpin be my press operator holding something over my head. I can't discipline this guy for fear that he's leaving. Are you the good fit? Do you have a good personality? Do you fit into this culture? Are you willing to work? Is everything working okay? Awesome. And then basically with the MHM, I can teach somebody printing principles, and they don't really have to worry about constant microing. I've made 2 micro adjustments so far on over a couple hundred setups. That's not an issue on the press. And that was a big deal to me, to not have to have somebody have thousands of hours of muscle memory to do that quickly. So
Did you get a manual also?
Nope, just the auto.
So what is your minimum for an order?
So minimum is 12, but it's certainly priced to where we're still making money. So okay. It's the normal person. So we've had it's passed the test a couple times. So where we're at, we're in kind of a showroom of a car dealership. So the space is not quite mainstream with screen printing, embroidery, plastered everywhere. The people that are on board right now are exactly who I want to print for. So it's a hybrid shop right now. So we have about 70% retail. The other 30 is contract. And I cap my contract services at 4. So I have 4 onboarded partners. 2 of them are local. 2 of them are within the Midwest. So one's out of Indianapolis, one's out of Nashville. So they're the 2 local contract printers. It's great because I have great relationships with them. They would have followed me off the end of a cliff if that was what it was happening. So they have I have a good relationship with them. I love printing for them. The other 2, from hearing that I was doing this, have jumped on board because they knew who I was, my background, and what I was trying to build here in my vision. So they shifted and jumped to me, which the size of those other 2 definitely shadows the 2 local ones. So there is a ton of contract printing out of those 4 accounts. So I kind of capped that right there, because I know if I take on any more before I have seats filled, I have a full staff. I don't want to drop the ball on anybody. So I have it capped. And then the retail is just retail partners that I want to print for. So I print for a local OHL team. So it's Ontario Hockey League, the Flint Firebirds. I print for some USL2 soccer teams, the Flint City Bucks. And
I did not know you printed for the Firebirds.
Yep. Oh yeah, we've done it. fair share for the birds already. So that's the relationships that I have that are who I am. That I got a deal impending with Olympia, which is the Tigers and the Red Wings. So I got, the guy I was dealing with left, but I picked it up with somebody else, and that's a big deal. Those are big jobs there, and it's big retail. So I don't
have to get licensed, Ray.
What's that?
Do you have to get licensed to print for them?
Through them, yeah. So it's right through Olympia. So Olympia owns the Tigers, the Red Wings,
and basically Olympia is Little Caesars Pizza. Yeah. So the Illiches who own Little Caesars Pizza own the Tigers and.
Yep. So we got our foot in the door there, but it's things like that. And then I have a marketing guy who comes in and he does some content shooting, and he's got a great network and just reaching out from, I explained to him as a marketing guy, like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I will print. If you come to me and you want 12 shirts, 24 shirts, I'm going to print it. Here's my grid. We're going to do a great job. It's going to be a great experience, but it's not built for that. So I've had the ability to hit the ground running with a vision to bring in a specific clientele. So
Ray, talk about as starting a shop. I know a lot of people watching right now are understaffed. And one of the big struggles that everybody's having is finding employees that are trainable, that actually show up. That's a huge, they just don't have soft skills or whatever. So walk us through your experience, how you posted an ad, how you interview or whatever. How are you finding people to flesh out your vision?
So I got an awesome story actually about that. So right now we're mass producing a reach right now. So it hasn't reached social. I'm working on the creative. We're finishing up the creative this week for the social push, which it's hard to recruit social because there's they don't want you to discriminate. So that's more of a outward appearance. Like we want to hire people, but there's, things like Indeed, it's a big giant net. All those big sites are big giant nets, and you just got to try and do your due diligence to weed through and be honest with yourself and have somebody that don't put a body in just to put a body in for the sake of growth, because then it spirals and you have bad growth. You have, I have capacity. Not really, because you're going to have high turnover, because this is not a great atmosphere for anybody. They're here to collect a paycheck and that's it. So I'm really looking for specific people that have a specific mentality to come in and to enjoy a workspace and to be real too. So what do you want? So like as a rewarding thing for a job too, I think having been an employee, and if I find somebody like me who I see develop like how I developed, I'm going to do everything I can. If my growth is dependent on you, you will have every opportunity to do whatever you need to grow. And then I'm going to do whatever I can to keep you because that's extremely rare to get there. But from the ground up, getting people, I'm just looking for a good, if you're working hard and you have a good mentality, I'll teach you everything you need to know. I'll invest everything I need if you have a good, solid core, a good personality, a good work ethic. I was literally just at Five Guys the other day. I was getting a burger, and there's a big guy behind the grill working his butt off. He is just slamming, and he's singing to himself, having a good time, even though he's slamming. Everyone around him is kind of miserable, and he is just slamming away working. And I grabbed my food and I walked up to him and I said, "Hey man," and I handed him a card, and I said, "If you're ever not happy here, I would love to talk to you." And the manager come running up, and he was stoked. So somebody acknowledged he was working hard. And the manager come up, she's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "You can't do that." And I was like, "Hey, Mama Bear, I don't know. You better treat him good. He's working hard for you." And she started laughing, and it wasn't really a bad thing, but it was, yeah, he works really hard. And I was like, well, appreciate him, man, because he's grinding. I've been in here for 10 minutes waiting for my burger, and he is just as happy as can be, grinding away. I said, I wish I had a shop full of all those people. So
yeah, let me tell you, Ray. So I know a lot of shops have found really great workers that are in the hospitality area, especially restaurants, waiters, waitresses. I know Scott Dawson's watching right now. I know he is hired from that and had success from that, because we've had a conversation about that. And what's really great about hiring from the restaurant community is that these folks are used to hustling. They're used to being on their feet all day. They're used to, they have to remember to do things. There's a process to, wherever they work,
right.
And And so it's really a lot of that's transferable to what we do. And of course, if they're working in a restaurant kitchen, they're familiar with the concept of mise en place. Everything has their specific place. There's an order. There's a process. We keep things clean, which is a big thing of mine. I want a clean shop. I know you do too. So it's like this really a lot of times translates to what we do. And if we can have a better environment for them where they're successful and they're tired of making $2.10 an hour plus tips, a lot of times we can get them to come over to, the craziness, the circus that is this industry, right?
Yep.
Well, and Ray, because of your reputation too, there's been a gentleman I know reach out to you that you used to work with, and he went to a different industry and making very good money and has said, hey, I want to come back.
Mm-hmm.
He knows it'll be less money, but because of the environment and stuff.
Yep. I've had, that was the struggle too, because, I left other workplaces and I've had, I'm not going to name names, but I had people reach out because of, who I am and how I handle things and whatnot, and the environment I'm trying to create or have created in the past. I've had lots of people that were, I had known from the past or from other work experiences reach out and go, hey, are you hiring? And I'm trying not to blur those lines because I don't want to blur those lines. So I'm trying to start fresh, but it is nice to know that the environment, at least, locally, and there's even people who I had no idea who knew who I was reach out and, hey, I heard you opened a shop. Do you have space for this? And it's not yet. Give me a second. Give me all your information because I'll bring you in and we'll talk.
Right.
But it's been wild for sure.
So Davis Slagle says, hey guys, in Seattle visiting with Artem from Logo Unlimited, talking about this same subject.
Awesome.
So it's all over, man. Trying to find people.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your business right now. So here's your webpage. Let me get rid of this thing here. So talk about your business, your customers, kind of what you do, and you just had to build a website. I really like your icons here. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
So talk about like starting from scratch and doing all this stuff.
It was daunting for sure. So it was. I want to be built on a foundation. So I'm going to hire and fire off the foundation. And I have 4 guiding principles. One is transparency. It helps in business. So even in tough situations, especially with screen printing and embroidery, it's not a perfect business. You're going to have mess ups. You're going to have spoilage. You're going to have things that happen, logistical errors. And I always found, no matter what circumstance I was in, the easiest thing to do is to be transparent. If you have to own something, wear it. You have nothing will benefit if you do anything other than wear it when you need to, because that comes back to pay dividends with trust, whether it's a good or a bad thing. Transparency, I think, to me, that was huge. And empathy. So empathy is a big one for me too. And I know those sound like buzzwords, but really the ability to feel what other people feel. Yep. So that helps in making dialogue, which I think as I become older and more mature and self-aware, I don't know where I got it from, but my ability to think with empathy and transparency just kind of happens naturally. And the more I break it down into how is it easier for me to build a relationship than somebody else? Why do people favor talking to me? And that kind of becomes a problem, especially when you own a shop and not everybody can come right to you and talk to you. You have to hire people that you trust to be the person to talk to. So how do I break down what I'm good at and train it to other people? And be transparent, be empathetic, feel what they're feeling, and then have talent too. So I will scale as fast as I can scale with the right talent. So the last thing I want to do is scale without talent. And I think that it's subsidized a lot. And I think that obviously there's a perception of talent, I think, Marshall, you talk about the ugly baby syndrome. An artist thinks they got a great talent and look at this design. It's great. Yeah, to you, it is great. But to step back and to really look at the landscape of
that's an old article, dude.
That's the first one I ever. That's how I came to know who you were. Actually, is that article. So that stuck with me. But talent, to know talent. So that means if I have to pay more, I don't ever want somebody to say to me, "Hey, I'm leaving. I'm going for a better opportunity here. Can you pay me more to stay?" No, I want you to trust that what I can give you, I've done my due diligence, and you are important to the staff. I'm giving you everything I can give you. And if you have to leave, you won't. And Alan, I think we talked about this too. Somebody said that to you. You're going to have everything I can give you. I'm not going to hold back, because now you build a disconnect. Like, oh, they say that they care for me, but deep down, I know that they're also playing me as a business owner. And you do have to do that. You have to keep tabs on your business and your expenses coming in and out, and be realistic. But at the same time, if you have some key components and you have room and you wait until they're on their way out to give it to them, I don't like that. And if you have something that is going to be better for your family overall, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, that's incredible for you. I'm so happy for you. Let me know if you ever need anything in the future, because that as a human is what you're supposed to do for somebody if they have a better circumstance.
I tell you, my father was an executive with Lincoln Mercury, and he was like kind of high up in the food chain, and he decided to buy and start his own car dealership. And the day he turned in his notice, of course, they said, hey, you can't do that. Here's a bunch of money to stay. And his comment to them was, well, if I'm worth that today, I was worth that yesterday.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times, we need to pay people what they're worth. You can't go broke doing it, right? But if you're going to offer them more money, if they decide to leave, you should be paying them that already, right? So, and so I love your attitude about that. So that's really refreshing to hear.
The situation with me that Ray referred to was a company I was leaving to go to another company, and the owner and I respect each other. I actually talked to him last night and have a great working relationship. He is one of our dealers. And we've still been friends. And when I left, he goes, I'm afraid to ask, but can I offer to try to keep you? And I said, you can, but I also know I'm also the highest paid person. That means if you can, I go, I don't think you can. And if you can, that means you've been holding out on me. And I don't think you've been holding out on me.
Yeah.
I go, and if you have been holding out on me, I go, then that tells me something, and I won't accept.
Yeah.
He goes, and I told him what the offer was, where I'm going to. He goes, there's no way I can do that. I go, I know.
Yeah.
Well,
and that left it on good terms. I'm glad he wanted to try to keep me.
Yeah, well, it feels good to be wanted, and so there's an old axiom that says you never get paid what you're worth. You only get paid what you negotiate. Right?
Yeah.
So,
and you know what? I knew I was ceilinged out there, and I had, for my career, I had to. And doesn't mean it's a bad company. It's just times it was just time.
Yep.
So where does Evrik Imprints come from? That's such an odd name. I don't know what that means. What's the story with that?
So Evrik comes from, at the foundation, I had, and as I grew older, I tried to stay in a maturing stage to where maybe I think I'm ready to run a business by myself here. Maybe I need some more growth. Maybe I need to learn some more. Maybe I need to learn some more. I was at a crossroads where I was like, okay, I'm pretty sound in everything I need to do here. I'm pretty self-aware, I'm pretty resourceful. I got the good foundation. I can do this. Let's go. And when I thought about it, I have two boys, Maverick and Everett. They're 6 and 3. They, along with Sam, who's my wife, they're my entire world, dude. I love being a dad more than anything else. I love those two. My dad had 2 boys, and they are almost exactly like my 2 boys. Like personality-wise, Maverick is a lot like me, and Everett is a Spitfire, just like kind of like how my brother was. And it's awesome, and I love every bit of being their dad. It is incredible. So the when I look at this, I went so long helping build something, putting my efforts into building something great for somebody else, which I got to learn. I got lots and lots and lots of benefits from this. But at the end of the day, I was building something for somebody else's legacy, somebody else's family in the long term. So when the name Evrik is derived from a combination of Maverick and Everett. And the icon for the logo, there's 3 dashes. The middle dash is slightly shorter. That's an M for Maverick. If you tilt it 90 degrees, it's also an E for Everett.
Ah, there you go. Ray, the thinking guy. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I definitely put a lot of effort into that. And then, everything I do is, if I become, in my 50s and 60s and the boys don't want anything to do with the shop, hey, I'll find a successor that does and help them bridge the gap. All I need is a good life for my family and a good legacy, whether it be the shop to make money for a good future, or sell the shop then and to give them money for their kids to go to school and to buy, whatever they want to do to make a good life, not an extravagant life. I'm not looking to be a multimillionaire. I just want to live a good life, spending quality time with my kids.
Good. Love it. So Cal's here says, good morning, Brahms. How do you pronounce that?
Brahms.
Watching the show, eating my chicken and waffles. And Cal says, hired someone a few years ago. He left back in March, but came over a few weeks ago and told me he bought a 6-color Riley Hopkins. Ray says he's back.
We missed you.
Yeah. And, he was threatening to leave, and now he's back.
It was a threat. Yeah.
And Josh is here. Hey, Josh. Good to see you, buddy. So, all right. So let's pay some bills, and let me get that queued up here. So we on GSG, on their Pulse magazine, we want to feature today the Wilflex Rio mixing system. Yep. I'm a big fan of this. I've used this in 2 shops. It makes it really easy to mix any Pantone color. And it's basically, if you don't know what this is, you get the correct number of grams for the base and the pigments, and it allows you to mix the ink in a formulaic way. So you don't have to have the artistic eye to match that color blue or green or red or whatever. It's just basically a recipe to follow when you stir it up, and there you go, right? And so you can mix any Pantone color in about 4 minutes. So it's really easy to use. You can also customize things. And one of the things I really always enjoyed about it was you can take a current Pantone color, let's say PMS 186, and you want to mix PMS 202, it'll tell you how many grams of 186 you need to put in the bucket and what pigments to use to make PMS 202, which allows you to recycle your ink. And as we know, ink is really expensive. So this allows you to cut your usage down with new inks and reuse what's on the shelf. So I'm a big fan of that. And so we just want to highlight that. So if you're interested in the Pantone system or Wilflex Rio system, call GSG, and I certainly can help you with that.
Marshall, I'm glad you mentioned the recycle feature on that, because with the IMS, which is the online system for color matching for Avian, that's also for all of their ink systems now. And that recycle feature is so incredible. And I just think it's one of the least used features in color matching.
Well, I'm a big sustainability guy. And if you think about, go ahead and do an accounting dive on how much you're spending a year on ink, right? And then if you can reuse, like when I ran visual, we were reusing, depending on the month, somewhere between 15 and about 22% of the Pantone colors that we had to mix were made from existing Pantone colors. The other ones were, it was something we hadn't ever made before, right? But so it's like we're reusing stuff. And this is how you save money, and that is all about profit, right? So
absolutely.
Don't be afraid to make more profit.
Yeah, absolutely. So nice job, Aviant and Wilflex on the Rio system. And
that's incredible, man. I got not that to pitch one way or another, but I am currently using the Rio system for matching my band.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. We didn't even know that.
I'm super happy with it.
Yeah. And
to make sales call and force Ray to try to at least sample a product or two.
By the way, I was in a shop last week, Trust Print Shop in Fort Worth, and their ink kitchen's incredible. It was really nice. And one of the cool things they did is they have 2 shelves, and on the shelf they have all the pigments lined up, and they have the ink scoops for each bucket hanging on a nail, so they never have to clean them. And so, this one goes to bright yellow, this one goes to violet, whatever. And then, so when they're doing stuff, it's easy to put it in. And they also have all of the pigments, and I'm a big fan of this, putting them in condiment bottles. So when you just need like 2 more grams or like a half a gram, like 1 drop or whatever, you could just squeeze that and you get that drop in the bucket. And that makes it really easy to mix. It was immaculately clean, which is what I like. So I'm a big fan of that. So they did a really good job with that. So just huge shout out to them.
The other thing too is like I seen the comment from Ray, the low cure. So it's the one that I'm using right now is the Rio low cure. So I use the Rio low cure, and then my white, and not to throw brand names out there, but I really like personally the ELTX stretch poly line from One Stroke. So that ELTX white is awesome. The ELT whites are great. That's my base white, my top whites. That's a low cure ink, and it works super good with all of my color inks, which happen to be the Rio low cure. So my dryer never changes for Plastisol. It's all.
So you're a shop that just does one for everything, no matter the substrate. We're doing one set of inks.
And you know what? I love to hear this because I remember when low cure inks first came out, everybody was resistant. They didn't want to have another SKU of ink lines out there, and I don't blame them. I said, so why would you not use low cure for everything, even back then?
We got a
recipe. Why not? Turn down your dryer. Let's go.
Yep, we got a recipe for water base. We got a recipe for discharge, and we got a recipe for Plastisol. There's 3 settings to run with.
You know, it's funny. A lot of people, they talk to me about pricing and costs and everything, and they're always concerned about what the cost of ink. Ink is this is. I'm like, the ink is not. Ink is cheap. Okay, it's your labor on your press that's expensive, right? That's what you should be really concentrating on, not how much your ink costs.
Yeah.
Right. It's your setup. It's your disorganization. It's the fact that you're double stroking. Yeah, and everything's in revolver mode. Let's talk about that before we talk about the cost of ink.
Yep, absolutely. When's the last time you sharpened your squeegees or changed them out? Whatever.
Yeah. Let's talk about UM, right? Let's talk about that before we talk about how much.
We just had a time change. Set back your clocks. I would say set back your clocks. Change the batteries in your smoke alarm and clean them out, and then change your squeegees.
Yeah, right.
If you have to, minimum twice a year.
Yep.
Yeah, good. That's a good tip. Good tip. Not everybody has a squeegee sharpener. Ray, you got a squeegee sharpener?
I have brand new squeegee blade.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, eventually, will you buy one, or are you just going to change the rubber out?
Yeah, I'll buy a sharpener. That makes sense.
And I think I love squeegee sharpeners. I think they get overused because then what happens is people start sharpening them down lower and lower. Well, now you've added another variable because you're adjusting your pressures up and down. So the sharpeners are just to keep the edge sharp. Not to reduce.
Well, there's a micro setting, right? You don't have to take out a chunk, right? You can just take out a little
but
bit.
Over time, I've watched people where they're smaller. So you have 1.5 inch wide squeegee. Well, now it's down to 1 inch. And also, when you get smaller, now your diameter's starting to change.
Yeah, right.
We bought some stiffer Duro squeegees for for different things. So I got blades set aside. So I got a 12 color auto. So I'm not using all those. So 4 or 5 of them I already have the stiffer Duro loaded. So when I need to switch it over, I can. And it's easy.
Are you using your go-to is a triple?
Yeah, go-to would be triple. It works so good on the auto. I mean,
is it 70 95 70 or 65 95 60 or
60? Yeah, we'll go 65 95 65.
Cool. Yeah.
Right.
And I love that you have, squeegee holders, extra squeegee holders with extra durometers back in. That is another thing. And people, and stop going, well, I'd have to change squeegees. I need more holders. Get them. Have the tools there, ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah. So to me, it's all about the cost of not running your press.
Yep.
Like if you're going to, for example, clean your boards, have somebody else clean the boards while you're printing. It's so much better in the long run because now you're making money.
Right.
So, but you got to have an extra set of boards.
Yep.
So, our next topic here is contract printing, which you do, right, on a limited basis, and and you're very specific and intentional about the people you work with for that. So, why don't we talk about that for a little bit, Ray? So, give us your theory on contract printing.
So contract printing for me. So I don't want my shop, I don't want Evrik to fall off the side of the fence for the sake of, growth and, not to say profit, but sales. Don't fall off that side of the fence, because there is enough kind of quote unquote contract printing business out there to keep you plenty busy forever. So what I wanted my shop to be was, we're extremely capable on the inside, lots of talent on the inside, great product coming out of it. When you think of a normal contract shop, that's not necessarily what you think of. You think of contract work, usually gets a bad rep. It's fast, it's quick, it's easy, it's for moving it along. But I wanted to take on and onboard specific contract accounts that met the same culture fit as me, valued the same values as I did, and kept it a great atmosphere for the limited amount of contract partners that I have. So right now we have 4 contract partners. 2 of them are local, 2 of them are in the Midwest. That is plenty enough, and anything more than that is great for growth and sales. But I also then let the opportunity to drop the ball slip in by taking on more than I'm capable of producing. So for the time being, I have a very tight grip on the amount of contract work that comes in and is able to use our system, to use our services, because it's really tailored to be I don't know if you heard this reference. So the dark blue water, right? So there's shark infested red water, and there's the dark blue water where nobody's at.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of contract printers, lots of retail printers. Find me a service that treats you like a retail partner, but produces contract printing. Not a lot of people want to meet you in that space, because you do much more service work. It's much more service oriented. You're a team in this. It's a lot less drop, print, ship. There's more to that relationship. There's more communication involved. There's more,
you're charging more too, right?
Where you're charging more. Yeah, I'm definitely not the cheapest. If you asked any of our contract partners, we are not the cheapest contract shop around. That is for sure. And if you're not okay with paying those, I'm okay with that too.
Yep.
We're not the right fit, and that's 100% okay.
So I've always said contract printing, what you're selling isn't the decoration. You're not selling ink on cotton. You're selling trust.
You are selling,
because somebody else owns that order, and you're selling the fact that somebody bought those shirts. You're going to count and receive them the day they come in. You're going to set the job up, and it's going to be a perfect print. You're going to ship it third-party blind, so like nobody knows you were even there. You're the stealth bomber, right? It's going to go out on time, and it's going to be perfect. And of course, sometimes mistakes or problems happen along the way, and you're going to work them out, and you're going to be fair about what happens. But you're going to do the job as specified for them. Mm-hmm. And I think a giant problem a lot of people have with contract printing is they want that contractor to do all the work for them. They want them to do the artwork, or them to do the steps, or them to order the goods. And that's not contract printing anymore. That's something else. So, to me, contract printing is, I'm handing Ray the football, and he's going to run and score the touchdown, and he's doing all the work, and I just set him up.
Yep. So we got the two local contract accounts. They're sales accounts primarily. They have no fundamental background in screen printing or embroidery, but they promote and sell the product. So they are if I had to build a scale, volume wise, they are the bottom 2. The other 2 are coming from other screen print shops that have either downsized to do just selling, or they have a good fundamental understanding of what's going on because they've had to do it. And those are 2 big, huge accounts for me that are potentially onboarded now, to where I had to cap it. But it is exactly that. It's and the great part about it is the 2 that are shops have no problem paying when they need a good separation done. They have no problem paying for it because they understand exactly what's going into it. The other 2 who are sales that are local to me here, they don't mind paying it either. Because they value the relationship with me and the asset that I bring to their customers. They just charge for it. And that was another part too, is even when you hit the middle ground where they, come back and say, this doesn't make sense. Why am I being charged for this? At that point, you don't have an argument with them. You have a great platform to educate them. This is why. And you can use this to educate your customer on why that costs more and why it's worth it. And then they value that dialogue instead of me just saying, oh, you're being cheap. You got to be like this. No, explain it to them. Be transparent.
Yep.
Yeah. We got some questions here. So Ray, answer this. I'm trying to get into contract work since I'm unable to start my own shop. What advice can you give to find a shop to work with? So he wants to find a contract printer. What are some questions he should be asking those printers that he's interviewing?
So my first thing that comes to my brain so when I started Evrik, I had to contract out all my work until I got my equipment in. So I had about 2 months and a half, almost 2 months of contract. So in my mind, my first thing that I did was time is precious. I need a 1-day ship. I need to audit every 1-day ship from me first. Because if it has to go to 2-day, now we're talking about more time that kind of can kill at times. So I looked at a 1-day ship radius, who's close, who's competent. I don't want excuses from somebody that's not competent. I will pay more if I have to be partnered with a competent partner with a 1-day ship. And I actually found a great embroidery partner and I found a great screen print partner and I use them for the time being. But that was my first hurdle was time is precious. Find somebody that's competent within a 1-day ship was my first step.
Very good.
Yeah. And I would also add that contract shop has to have processes and standards. And if you say the thing's going to ship Friday, it ships Friday. Also, we need to talk about the downside of stuff when you contract. So, you ship, let's just say it's a 500-piece order and they checked it in and they only got 450, right? So when are they counting the shirts? Like you can't be counting the shirts the day it's supposed to print and then discover there's 50 missing, right? So we need to know their process and procedures and how they use communication to help you manage the order. And then also, sometimes, the screen breaks and ruins 20 shirts. I mean, what happens when there's a disaster or things go wrong? I would talk about that ahead of sending 500 shirts to somebody, what's the plan? Right?
Go ahead.
I think what we need to remember on that, and you talked about this, Ray, earlier on, and Marshall, you're talking about it now, is that our friend Greg Kitson always said from Mind's Eye when he was running it, he said, you know what, we're basically a logistics company. We happen to print about 4 hours a day. And so you got to be a logistics company. They knew stuff was coming in. It was being counted right away. They had constant contact with their clients. And yeah.
I had, when I was looking for an embroidery partner, and right now, actually, we don't have any embroidery in-house. So we still use our embroidery contract partner. And he's out of just south of Chicago, Apparel Reimagined, there, John Leroy. And I interviewed him and I said, all right, man, so walk me through this. And he walked me through his Nomo system, which was a proprietary system that he paid software developers to make. And as he's going through this and showing me the software, I'm going, yep. I almost feel your pains of getting to this point of building the software for your systems. And I said, I know and trust that you built this with an intention to systemize everything. And I know your embroidery is fair. It's good. I'm sold. You got me.
Yeah. Again, there's that system word. There's the standard word, right?
John and Nick down at Apparel Redefined down there do a great job.
Yeah.
Just south of Chicago, they are clients of mine. I've been in their shop many a time. So great people.
So here's a comment. My current printer won't take large orders because he's more profitable with retail printing, of course. Right. And so, but that doesn't mean there aren't contract printers that don't do large jobs. I've printed several, like one order would be 250,000 shirts. I've done stuff like that. Right. So it's just a matter of who you're using. Right. So I think I would recommend you find, and then what is a large order? For you, a large order might be 200 shirts. For a contract printer, that's like barely setting up the press. Right. So it's like, you need to figure out who you're talking to there.
Yeah.
And Marshall, they can also contact you and I. We have lists of people that recommend. Great. Like when I recommend someone to Ray, Ray knows the other people I recommend. These are people that I would use and have used on my anything personal I would need.
Yeah. So here's a comment from Colette. Hey, Colette, thanks for joining us. Good to see you here. With anything in contract printing, you have to have your policies in place in advance.
Correct.
You should also be printing in advance of the ship date. Print a day to 2 days before you need to ship, so you have time to fix emergencies.
Yeah.
It's always a good policy.
For sure.
To me, the ship date is the day the thing leaves the building. And I like to have 100% of what has to go out at least one business day before that.
Yep.
And then so your production is planned, based on the size of an order, or, you got post-production like hang tagging or whatever, that everything gets done. And so one business day before the ship day, it's finished. And then on the day it's supposed to ship, it's just really being, set up for UPS or something. So
nothing makes, from a sales into your client partner happier than go, yeah, it was due on the 19th. By the way, it's the 17th to go, and your order is shipped complete on the 17th. Oh, yeah. They love that.
Well, sometimes you can't ship early because it's an event and you can't get it until a certain date. So you have to be wary of that. But, you should have everything is done as quickly as possible. And as my son Jack knows, our standard operating procedure around here is if you're not early, you're running late. So we're early on everything. So
yeah, if you're early is on time is late, and late should never happen.
And speaking of time, we got a couple minutes left.
Yep.
And we missed my favorite topic.
Do it.
Art process. So let's spend a couple minutes about that, because Ray, I know you're an art guy, and I'm an ex-art director that still dabbles. I still love designing. So let's talk about, to me, one of the biggest challenges is the sales to art, to screen room, to production lane, right? What do we need to do to get stuff through that pipe faster? Go.
Regardless of what kind of press, because there are processes here. And so, all right, Ray, go.
Yeah, so this has to be split for me. So what you kind of referenced, the retail side. So that's when there's nothing created already. So from that side of things, I think the biggest thing is over communicate. So to preach to your sales staff, your goal is to suck as much information as you can, and bonus points if you got any kind of visual reference to what they want.
Yep.
And get that communicated. So in our system, we use Price It software, which shout out to Ron and the guys there. That's an insane system there. I love it. But you have the ability when you make a work order to create documents. And as a salesperson, if you got any kind of visual reference and you've had that conversation, A, I know you've done a good job with the customer. B, I have good visual representation of a style, even if it's a style they're looking for. You got a vintage Western looking design from Pinterest, and then you have a good breakdown, communicated breakdown. I will never be unhappy if you write me a paragraph explaining what it is that they're looking for in that conversation, because then I have everything I need as if I was in the conversation myself. And at some points, I don't think it's a good idea to get art staff involved with every conversation. Definitely not. But I think if there's a difficult one and your salesperson's not 100% sure what they're talking about, I think it warrants grabbing an art person, an art lead or the art director, and saying, hey, can you help put these pieces together so we can nail this on, right away?
Yeah, the term for that is called a creative brief.
There you go. Yep. You need a creative brief.
And a big thing I like doing is a thumbnail, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, here's your thing. You got 2022 on either side with the text underneath. What do you think of that layout? That took me, 2 seconds to do. And a lot of times these things, no. I want the text at the top, right? Anytime you do a thumbnail, this saves you a lot of grief, especially with clients, because some people, they just want to put their paws in it and make a change because that makes them feel better. Okay. So if you do that with the thumbnail, hey, put the text at the top. Now that thing's going and you'll be able to approve first time out because they've already made their change.
Right. Yep.
They already feel good about getting their thought into the design. Yep. I'm a big proponent of that thumbnail kind of deal. So
yep. And I think there's a big difference in being realistic too about the landscape that is the art talent out there. So there's a lot of people I would consider they know their way around the software. So a lot of, vectorizers, digitizers will do that. If I'm a graphic artist, you're really good at, typeset is what it is. You're moving elements around. You're not designing from scratch anything. So there's a place for that in our industry, and we need it. But you also have to be realistic too about your capabilities and what you can. So I like, as far as elements, I do like to have resources that are elements. If I have a design in my head, I will sketch it out, do a thumbnail, and then instead of redrawing every element, I might go to Adobe Stock and purchase an element or download an element to bring in, manipulate it through a Photoshop action, and use it how I see fit in my design. So that expedites the speed, but to know your capabilities too on what you can do and when to reach out for help. So there are really good artists, above average artists. And if you have a job that comes in and it could be potentially a big client for you and you don't have the best art staff, swallow your pride, reach out to somebody who's very good, pay them what they deserve to be paid, and knock that ball clear out of the park for that client.
Yeah,
100%.
Especially if they're trying to sell the shirt, because guess what? We're not Sanmar, we're not S&S, we're not Alpha Broder. We sell decorated stuff. And so if the decoration is awesome, people will buy the more of that shirt. If it's kind of a mediocre design, you'll have mediocre sales. Mm-hmm. So the better designs always sell. And so if you can get somebody that's got some talent, you're going to be selling way more than some clip arty looking thing that everybody can get. That's just my opinion.
The really good example of this, and it doesn't even have to be in one size fits all. So I like following their socials. It's Graphic Disorder out of, I think it's Johnson City, Tennessee. So his artist, very good at trucks and cars in the automotive scene, and their separator, I think maybe Shelly separates or whatever, but their art staff extremely good at what they do. Right? You can build, like when I was an art director, in the past, I built a network. This guy's really good at seps. I don't have 2 hours to separate that right now. I can do it, but I don't have 2 hours. And I need to send that out. And I know who's very good, and we can make up the cost because we won't drop the ball later. You won't have to replace 2 screens in that while it's on press because it's bad seps. You will just continue to flow. The artwork will be great from the get-go. You are good at this, you are good at this, and have a network of resources to turn to, because the customer doesn't know that you don't have a full-fledged perfect art staff in the background. Like you said, I got a proof. If I'm a customer, I'm looking at a proof. It's either going to knock my socks off or it's not.
Yeah, right.
I'm dealing with your company. I don't need to know that you outsource that.
Right.
So Ray spent a lot of time writing something, so let's read it. So salesman speak and artist speak are very different. Great to have someone that can translate better if the system forces communication to the point of something is missing. It prompts questions. Nothing worse than an artist working on a project and it's fundamentally wrong.
Yeah, that's brutal.
That's great. That's great. And then Curly says, I separate my art while I'm creating it. Yeah, a lot of people do that. And then Shion says, everything starts with the design artwork. That's great.
Well, and I think that I take extreme enjoyment out of creating art that's easy on press, because right now I'm also on press a lot too, in the beginning stages of this. So I'm building art that's easy for me to print.
Well, let's talk about this quick because we're going to run out of time, but now you have the art and how that art translates into the production process of screen and stuff. You've worked with multiple presses, different direct-to-screen units, and it still always comes down to the process.
You're setting yourself up ahead of time. So inks that touch, how you generate your underbase, when and when not to use it, what screen mesh to use makes a huge difference. We had a contract partner that was another huge shop, reached out to us and said, hey, we can't print this. It's a 6-color job. We have the 10-color press just like you do. We can't print this. It looks like a mess. So they sent me the schematics and they sent us they even sent us the ink, actually. They sent us everything. And it's like a 5,000 piece order for a huge contact for them. Can't print it. Can't get it to look good. Spending too long on it. We're shipping it to you. Printed it. Showed me how the breakdown was. Their art director sent it to me. And they're using a bunch of 110s and 156s running wet on wet. And I'm like, well, this was easy. there's way too much ink going down on this. It doesn't need to be that. We can still get opaque colors on, 230 all the way around, and you flash here instead of here. And maybe take your base and put it on a 230 and run it at 70% opacity. So you got some halftone, so the shirt drinks in some of the top color. You still get a vibrant color. And unless you put a magnifying glass on it, you can't see where there is and isn't underbase, but it doesn't stick anymore.
Absolutely.
Definitely helps.
And then also, let's talk about screen tension there.
Yeah, for sure.
Why isn't wet on wet working? Well, it's because you're printing on a loose trampoline, right? It's wallowing around in the ink instead of, and so all your ink is being picked up on the next screen, right? So
this goes back to fundamentals. Incredible art put on a crappy screen. It's going to get you a crappy print.
Right. And that's a whole nother show. So, so we're out of time, and we need to be respectful of everyone's time. So, Ray, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Do you mind if I show your email address?
Go ahead. Yep, all good.
Great. So anybody has a question for Ray, here's his email address. You can reach out to him, especially if you want shirts. I'm sure he's happy to sell you some stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so what's next for you? You got the end of the year coming. You're going to be at Long Beach. What are you doing?
Yeah, we'll be at Long Beach for sure. So at least me, but hopefully at that point I'm in recruitment stage. So I'm hiring some new people right now. And hopefully I find somebody to invest in and hopefully I can take them with me, and it'll be me and some production people. And it'll be my first year at Long Beach. So I'm excited about that. I've gone to a lot of other trade shows, but not in Long Beach. So I get to make that call this year, and we're going to be there, and it's going to be great. And I think right now we got really great equipment. We got really great people supporting us, surrounding us. And right now it's all about finding the right people and building a training platform and growing the right way.
Awesome. All right. Well, cool. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
So glad. So, and then we'll have it back on. So Ray, congratulations on the new venture. You're off to a great start. You're going to do Flint and Michigan proud, man. So
appreciate that.
All right. Well, hey, Ray, don't go anywhere. All right. See you guys next week. Thanks for watching.